When we were kids in the summer of 1983 collecting Star Wars action figures, we had no idea that Kenner would omit a major version of one of the heroes from the roster. But we started to determine it when we saw the Jabba the Hutt playset box depicting Luke Skywalker chained to Jabba's throne instead of Princess Leia. But thankfully, 40 years later, Stan Solo has come through in the clutch.
Where's Leia?
I'm here.
Everyone, the man behind the vintage Han Solo and Stormtrooper disguise, the man behind the Kenner-styled Bantha, has done it again, giving us one of the greatest omissions in the Kenner line. And when I say greatest, I mean biggest. I don't mean awesome omission. Slave Leia. This was one of the biggest question marks we had as kids, because there was a chain on Jabba's throne for someone, and on the box it depicted Luke Skywalker in Jedi Knight outfit. We always wondered why they never made this figure. Now, there have been rumors about Kenner not being comfortable with creating a character whose, quote, sole purpose was to sit chained to a throne. Maybe it was also the fact that the character was evocatively dressed. But all of that is just conjecture. I've never heard a definitive answer on why they didn't make Slave Leia, but they didn't. That's really all that matters. And Stan Solo has come through with an excellent interpretation of Slave Leia. The first thing I want to point out about this action figure is the excellent sculpting. This thing looks like it jumps right out of a 1982-83 Kenner catalog, and it matches seamlessly into the Kenner lineup. If you lined this Slave Leia up with all of the other Leias that have ever been made in the original Kenner run, you wouldn't be able to tell if you were uneducated about Kenner Star Wars that this figure wasn't part of that original line. It's that aesthetically meshed, and it is perfect in that regard. I also love the added detail of the soft goods over her legs in front and behind her, which gives it that extra 1983 Return of the Jedi into 84, 85, and into Power of the Force styling that Kenner was bringing to these figures at that time. But I think what sells this figure most, more than anything else, is the attention to subtlety given to the face. The face and hair of this figure are perfect, spot-on Kenner. They didn't over-index too much in one direction or another. They didn't try and add more detail in that Kenner wouldn't have. This is pitch-perfect replication of the Kenner style in a figure that never was. Stan Solo has opted to give their version of Slave Leia the Nikto staff as her accessory. The other wonderful thing about finally having a Slave Leia is that we finally have a Kenner trio that matches up. We have the Carbonite Han, we have the Jedi Luke, and now we have the Jabba's Palace Leia. But Stan Solo wasn't content with just giving us the Slave Leia figure. They also decided to give us another long-standing Kenner omission, Oola the Dancer, so you can now choose which figure is going to be on display in front of Jabba's throne. The way Stan Solo has opted to do Oola's face is very reminiscent of a popular variant of the original Lando Calrissian and the other Bespin security guard, where they give her the whites of her eyes, which was not something that was commonly done on most Kenner figures. Oola has excellent sculpted detail in her costume while retaining that Kenner simplicity, and I have to admit, she looks pitch perfect when facing off against the Kenner Rancor. In another Kenner redemptive move, Stan Solo has also given us a movie-accurate General Lando Calrissian. At the time when we were kids in 1985, the Lando Calrissian General figure from the Power of the Force line seemed perfectly adequate, until you took a hard look at his costume in the actual film. And that's when you started to realize that Kenner took some real liberties with this outfit. Stan Solo has taken the original Power of the Force General Lando Calrissian and just updated his paint and cape color, and it is striking. He looks really good standing next to his old buddy Nine Numb, and admittedly, he just looks better than the Kenner original action figure because he's not as muted. He has the actual eye-popping color. When you see this figure in person, it's hard not to consider the possibility that this Lando would have sold much better in 1985 with this color scheme. Stan Solo even went so far as to give him his yellow pants stripe, which is something Kenner was omitting from their details by 1984 because Han Solo in his Endor trench coat was one of the first action figures to omit this. Last but certainly not least, I want to mention Stan Solo's new variant of the Death Star droid in black metallic paint. This was one that always was a head scratcher to me as a kid, because the character was called Death Star Droid, but his color scheme was reminiscent of how that droid looked on the Sandcrawler. Now, there was a black variant of this droid that walked by Han and Luke and Chewie when they were waiting for the elevator, and he was on the literal Death Star. Kenner decided to take the Sandcrawler version of that droid, call it Death Star Droid, and put it out on a card back. So I am very, very happy to finally have an accurate Death Star droid for my Kenner collection in the proper Kenner style. and he looks awesome in the Palatoy Death Star. I don't know what else I can say about these Stan Solo Artisan Star Wars figures that I haven't said already, but these are filling major, long-standing legacy gaps in the Kenner line, and I couldn't be happier. These are high-quality action figures, and there is no buyer remorse every time I purchase from Stan Solo. I am so happy after 40 years to finally have these figures in my Kenner Star Wars collection. I cannot wait to get them into the display, get everything set up right, take some new photographs. It's just going to be a fun afternoon. Thank you all for watching. The fans are doing the best work, and I'll see you on the next video.